Hey everyone, this is Daniel. In today's video, we're going to talk about Power Apps Visual for Power BI. Now, this is not a new technology because we've always been able to take a Power Apps Visual from the visualizations and go ahead and add it to a Power BI report. However, in this video, I'm going to focus on this little enhancement because in the past, whenever we would select, say, a table or a slicer in Power BI report, it would actually go and update or filter the gallery in a Power Apps. And then we would select on the gallery item and then go to the edit report. What I want to show you is how you skip that gallery piece altogether and directly go to the edit form in the Canvas app, which is already added into your Power BI report. The other two important things I'm going to talk about is the enhancements. So the first one is that Canvas app that you added as a Power BI visualization. By default, it only gives you the mobile design. I'm going to show you how you can go and get other designs directly added into your Canvas app, the one that you want to pick and choose, which gets embedded into Power BI. And the second one is for this demo, I'm going to actually use a SQL table. And what is that key feature that you need in the SQL table so you can actually go ahead and edit the form directly into Power Apps? Two very important pieces. So stick around, this is very important. But first, here's my intro video. So let's get started. And here is the finished product. So what I have over here is my Power BI report. This over here is a Power Apps Canvas app. And every single time I select something else, here I go and select another manufacturer, I can go ahead and select any one of its products. Right over here, it shows me the filtered one. See, it is that vendor, it is going ahead that model. And now I can even go and click on edit and I can go and change any of the items that I want right here, real time, directly inside the Power BI report. And as I mentioned before, no longer do I have to go ahead and have a gallery over here, click on the gallery item and go to the edit for the edit form. Whatever I select over here automatically goes and edits the edit form right over there and I can go and work on it. So now that you've seen the finished product, let's go and build this one from scratch. So here I am in Power BI. And for this demo, I'm going to go ahead and use an Azure SQL table. Now here's the thing, you could also go ahead and use Dataverse, but here's what I want you to focus on is that Dataverse, for example, over here, it says that this is the Microsoft documentation, that Microsoft Dataverse also gives you a direct query, which is what we need to make sure that this is a live connection going on. Now you can also do that with SQL. That's the one that I'm using. So you can see over here, SQL Server, it's live connection. The option is yes. For people who use SharePoint, just be a little cautious of that because SharePoint does not give you that functionality, all right? So just be mindful of that either for my scenario, I've used SQL, you can also go and use Dataverse. SharePoint does not have the live connection. Make sense? Cool. All right, so I'm going to go down to my Power BI desktop. And as a full disclosure, if I go on my file and if I click on About, you will see that I'm on September 2022 version. I personally stay at least a month behind in the desktop version. In this scenario, I actually had a troubleshooting to do, so I updated to the latest version. So as you're following along me in this video, just be mindful that this is the version Daniel is on. And if for some reason you cannot follow along the steps, go ahead and at least update to that version. All right? Okay. So next thing we're going to do is go and set up the data source. And you do that by clicking on the Home tab. And over here on the Get Data, you can directly just hover your mouse over and click on it. Or you can click on the drop down and click on More. Both of them accomplish the exact same thing. And when I click on it, it will actually give me the options to go and select all the data sources. So right now there's going to be a pop-up that comes in, and in the pop-up, I'm actually going selecting database. And on my database, I'm going to select SQL Server. And over here on the server, all I got to do is paste my server name. I don't need to put in the database. It will give me that option later on. But the important thing here is I got to select DirectQuery. All right, that's the important one. And I'll click on OK. And now that I do it, it will actually go and populate and tell me, hey, here is the server that you selected, here's the database that you selected, and these are the options that you have. So there you go. Here was the SQL, here was the database, and over here, I'm going to select two tables. First table name is manufacturer. So I'll just type in MAN for manufacturer. I got that one. The next one is devices. In my devices, I'll select the devices, and I'm good to go. So now when I click on load, it's actually going to go ahead and now load the data. It's going to make sure that the connections are all there. It'll go and create the connections. And then on the right side, it goes and adds that as in fields. In the fields, these are the exact two databases that I selected and all the columns along with it. Now, before we move forward though, I'm going to be going ahead and setting a very simple table over here, a simple report. So I got to make sure I've got the relationships between the two. And for that, I got to go to modeling. And in the modeling, I got to click on manage relationships. Right over here, I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to say that I need to do it for both of them. So I'm going to keep the manufacturers on the top, and I'm going to select the devices on the bottom. And it automatically went and did something for me, which is great because the ID that I'm going to use is called manufacturer's ID. Manufacturers is the primary ID for all the manufacturers. And on the devices, I also had the exact same columns. This is the relationship that I said. It automatically went and set that up for me, and it's from one to many, which is again exactly what I want. So I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to click on close, and now we can start moving forward. Since I've already got these two things done, which is the connections and relationships, I'll go and click on save, and I'll do, yep, that's fine, save as, we are good over here. Oh, that's fine, I'll go and do that. And we'll just go start building it. So actually in the view place over here, I like some of these designs. So I'll go and select that one. Looks pretty good to me. So I'll go with that. And the first visualization is a slicer. So I'll click on the slicer. I like that it is. I'll actually go and expand it all the way down. And over here, we're going to go and put in the manufacturers and the manufacturer's title. The moment I select that, it actually goes and gives me all the information that I have right over here. So this is pretty neat. I'll just go and make it a little bit smaller, and we are good. So now I'm going to go and add the second slicer. These are for all the devices. I'll make sure that they actually are side by side. Expand this a little bit because some of the device names can be longer. And for that, I actually go to my devices. In the devices, I go and grab its title, and this is what it looks like. This is pretty neat. And remember, since we set up the relationships, if I were to say in the manufacturer select Dell, it automatically goes and filters over here because the relationships already takes care of that. The other thing is, if you look at the visualizations properties, I've got the keep all filters on, and these are the filters level. I'm not going and doing a full cross report. I'm just going and keeping it on over here, and that is why it works, all right? Other thing I could do is actually add a little bit more design aesthetics to it. So for example, for this visualization, the slicer one, I can actually come under the visualizations, go on this format for your visual, and I can do some stuff. So the slicer header on the top, it says title. I can go and turn that off. I can actually go to the general section. I can go and header any icons over here. I can go back to the icons, the visuals. In the visuals, these values that are coming in, I can actually go and change that to, actually before I do that, go to the background here. I can go and set that up to, first of all, white. I can go change that. I can go make it a little bit bigger. And then I can go back to my general. In the general, under effects, I'll turn the background off. So now it actually looks a little nicer. Same thing I'm going to do for the other one, title as well. I'll click on the title, and since you're already there on the right side on the visualization, I'll go and turn this one off because I like the way it looks over here. And then I'm going to go back to my visual. In the visual, this one, which was the values, that's basically for the font. I'll go and make that as white. I can go and increase this one a little bit more. And under the slicer settings, specifically under selection, you see how specifically for this title one over here, it says select, multi-select. I'll go and turn that off because I just want a single select over here. And this is how you can go and actually do some of the designing piece, all right? And by the way, this one slicer header, I can go and turn one off as well. But I like what I look over here. I've got the designing piece done. Now we go ahead and actually work on the Power Apps canvas, which is this visualization over here. Right over here, this visualization, this is the one that I'm going to do. Now, if for some reason you do not see this, click on this ellipsis, click on Get More Visuals, and in the Get More Visuals from this marketplace, go ahead and search for Power Apps and add it to your visualizations. It's as simple as that. It is completely free, just to make sure that in case you don't see it over here, get it from your marketplace, all right? So I'll just go and click on yes over here. Now, before we do it over here, there's a little trick I want to show you, because if I click outside and if I click on Power Apps, it's actually going to come in this way. It'll go ahead and expand it, and it tells me to follow these three different steps, which is perfect. You still have to follow it. But what I want you to do is actually go ahead and create that Canvas app, the design that you wanted, and then you go and call this design in over here. Because if you go ahead through here, open the Canvas app for the first time and you go and create it, it only gives you this phone type of scenario over there, the design of the phone. It doesn't give you the full tablet type of design. So what I do is I'll go to Power Apps first, get the design that I want, then I'll go and add it over here. So let's actually do that, right? We keep things as it is. In fact, I'll just go and do a save. So keep this as is. Now I'll go to my Power Apps side. In my Power Apps, I'll just make sure that I'm in whichever environment that I want. So I'm good in my production side, so I'll keep it as is. Now I'll go and click on the canvas, and in the canvas, I'm going to say edit form for Power BI, and I'll just make sure that I switch with my SQL. I like that. And here I am going to use the tablet, all right? Just keep in mind, if you do it from Power BI, it always gives you only the phone visualization, but this is the workaround. Get the tablet one. Now I'll click on create, and once I'm here, I will actually go ahead and change the design that I want. So here we are in the Canvas app side. And by the way, this new look, I'm still getting a little used to it on the Canvas side. If you want the top menus, always click on Settings, go to Upcoming Features, under Preview. If you scroll down a little bit, you will actually be able to see this option, which is the Enable Modern Command Bar. I'm going to turn that off, and now I can see that top over here, right? Just thought I'll share that a little bit with you. All right, either way though, I got to come back into the file. I got to go into the settings. In my settings for the display, I'm going to change that to say a 4:3 iPad. That's actually the perfect amount that I want in my report. That's the same that I want. So now I got this done over here. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm going to click on File. I'm going to click on Save. I'll click on Publish. And now I'll go and call this from my Power BI side. This is a very important tip that I'm teaching you. That way you get the exact design that you want. So I'll go and click on Close over here. And it will go and finish on the closing side. And this is the new one that we have. Remember, it is in the environment type, and then I'll go and grab it over here from the report. So now let's go back to our Power BI. This is all good. We are at this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all the columns that I need from the Power BI. So I'll make sure that I go and grab all of these. I actually like all of them, so I'm going to make sure I select all. This is a very important step for your Power BI integration, because the ones that you select over here, all these columns under that table, the ones that you select over here, those are the only ones that you're going to see in your Power Apps. Very important step. So my recommendation over here is that you'd rather select more than less. Even if you're not sure about some column, go ahead and select it, because otherwise you may not have the option to go and get into Power Apps. Some of times it gets a little tricky. You may have to rebuild this Canvas app altogether. That's why I recommend more rather than less. Second thing is that when you went and selected all these, I call it columns, but they're actually fields. Over here, do you see how it changes to count? What I do is I come back over here and I go and actually say don't summarize. So you see that the count disappears. Same thing on the count of ID. I don't want a count. So I'll go and actually do that. And I say don't summarize. Some of them even have a sum, like a price over here has a sum. Again, I don't want that. So just keep all of that in mind, all right? So you get here some of the screen, don't want it, don't summarize that. And now I think I like the way it looks. I've got everything I want. I don't have any summarizing or any sum. Now what I gotta do is I gotta go and make sure I'm in the correct environment. So in my environment, when I come in, I select that, go to choose an app. This is the one that we just created, which is for the SQL. I'll select it and I'll click on add. Over here, now I want to actually open it into my Canvas Studio. So I'll click on go to Power Apps. It'll go ahead and open up directly in your browser. It actually asks you this, do you want to open up? I say yes, it opens it up. And now it'll go and open up the exact same Canvas app that we did. It went ahead and opened it up, but now you will see the Power BI integration, that one little section over there. All right, so we are in, I'll go and click on skip, and now you see that Power BI integration. Very important step, right? And also because we had that defined format, we got everything exactly the way we wanted. All right, so over here, I'm going to now just go and do a little bit of work. One of the things you always know that I'm trying to make things a little bit more responsive. So when I go into the layout, I'll at least go and grab the container. This is just something I do in all my Canvas apps, that even if I don't plan to make the whole thing responsive from the get-go, at least start adding the container in the beginning. Then inside, go and drop some stuff, but at least initially I add the container. It's just a habit that I'm building. Next, I'll go in the forms. In the forms, I'll go and add this edit, and I'll make sure that the edit form comes in over here, all right? I'll go and do that. Now what I want is for the form, its data source is going to be Power BI integration. So right there in the Power BI, I'll click on Power BI integration, .data. You got to go and fill this one in, all right? And then in the edit form, specifically for the item, we need to go and put in a formula. And if you've already guessed it, you know how in the Power Apps, when we do gallery selection, we want to filter a gallery, guess which formula we used over there, or the function? The lookup. This is exactly what we're going to do over here. But I want to pause for a minute, because what I want to do is I want to click on File, I want to click on Save, then I'll also click on Publish, because what happens is that deep integration which happens, if you think about it, our report right now is still on-prem. In fact, on my desktop over here. Technically, the desktop report should talk to your Power Apps on the cloud, but just to make sure that the synergy is great and the data connections are good between the two, I'll go ahead and publish this report up, make sure that it's already on the Power BI cloud, then I'll go and do some editing over there, and then I get that nice connection, all right? So I'm going to stop over here. I'm going to click on Save. In the Save, after that, I'll go and click on Home. I'll click on Publish. In the publishing, it's going to ask me, hey, which workspace do you want? So I'll actually go and put it in my Power BI integration workspace. Click on select, and now it is actually doing the publishing. The publishing will go and do all the saving. It's saving it over there. Once the publishing is completed, it actually goes and gives me the link, which is right here. Success, got the link. Now I can go and click on open. By the way, at this point, I can actually come back directly over here, click on got it, and I can close the desktop one because I'll be doing all my work directly on the cloud side. I'll click on save, which is great. And here we are directly on the cloud side, just to make sure, yep, that's the Power Apps visual for Power BI. And here I can go and continue all my work. Also, this is all a good sign. You see that the table came in, both the tables, we are seeing it all. That means that your Power BI report has successfully gone up to the cloud. Just to make sure, if I go up to my office.com, click on that. If I go directly into my Power BI, in my Power BI, once I go into my workspace, which is the Power BI integration, click on the hamburger menu, go to the workspaces for Power BI integration. Over there, you will see that the two items were just there. The report and the data set just got published. So this is all good. Everything is working. So now in my Power BI report, over here, I'm on the browser. I'll click on edit. And now that I'm in edit, I'm able to see all of these things. But what I want to do is click on this ellipsis and I want to click on edit. So the moment I do that, it brings me over to the screen, but then it goes ahead and opens up the Power Apps altogether. What I may have done is, yep, I've got to click this open over here. So I may actually get an error over there that it's, hey, this one's actually locked. That is good. That's by design. So what I'll do is just while this thing is loading, I'll come over here to the file. I'll go and click on close. So this one closes, and yes, I can go and leave that. I'll leave it. And then I come back over here. This thing hasn't really asked me yet if it is locked, but let's see what it does. It's loading. And because I went and closed the other one fast enough, this one didn't give me that locked error. But we are good. Let me just close that tab off, come back over here. And in the container is still there. The form is still there. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and make a connection to that SQL table. So I clicked on the data source. I click over here. I click on the all tables. I go ahead and start typing in SQL, the SQL server. I already have the connection made, so over here I can actually just select the table that I have. In my case, specifically the one that I want is just devices. I'll click on devices, and now I've at least gone ahead and made this connection. All right, so got that. Cool. So let's go back now and let's focus on this form. In the form, actually in the data source, I want to change that from Power BI integration. That was something I typed in that was wrong. Here is where we go ahead and get the data source that we just connected. And just to pause over here, you are going ahead and connecting to the data source to pull that information, but it's the Power BI integration that comes in. That is what helps us to do the filtering real time. So I still need the data source, right? Not all the data is coming from Power Apps, from the Power BI. Power BI is going to help us do all the filtering using the Power BI integration. So here our data source was called devices. So our IntelliSense gives me the devices, and we're good. Here, I'll actually go and click on the fields that I want. And in the fields, I'll just go and make sure I get only the ones that I need. So I know there was the manufacturer name. There was the title. Device type was another one of them. Let's go and grab the device type. Memory, price, photo, memory, price, processor, screen size, storage. These were all the important ones that I needed. And let me also go and grab the photo. And we'll actually go and make a change of that as well. And I'll show you that. But this is basically all that I needed over here. I'm in really good shape. Other thing I'll do is actually add a little bit more design functionality. So when I come back to my screen itself, in the back, the color over here, I'm going to take that color because that color will match a little bit closer to the actual form design that we have. Just kind of adding a little bit more aesthetic feel over here. In fact, speaking of aesthetic feel, when I click over here, I can actually go in and add a little bit more design functionality. Click on that. I can bump that up to format number, font size number 14, just adding all of these nice things over here. And here's the last one on the photo. Again, I'll just select the title piece or the label piece. I'll bump that to 14, add that to the white, and at least we've got this design going over here. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and do a little bit more design functionality. But at least first, let's get the data coming in over here, all right? So for the form, specifically in the item, here is the formula that we're going to start working on, all right? So formula that I talked about was I'm going to start putting up lookup. In my lookup, I got to go to devices. For the devices, I want to go ahead and use the device ID. The device ID needs to match. Now, this device ID is coming in from the SQL table whose connection that we just made over here. And that device ID needs to match from the Power BI integration. And here's the formula for that. So when I have now equal, I want to go and put in first, this first, then I type in Power BI integration dot data, close it, and then from the Power BI integration, I go and get its device ID, and I click on that, and now go and close it. So make sure that there's no squiggly lines, everything is good, I got no errors over there, and the data is already populating, which is pretty neat, because one of the interesting things I find over here, and I'll show you this, is actually I'm going to close this up a little bit on this side. Let me go my Power BI visual. In fact, my Power BI, let me try to make it a little bit more smaller. Back to the report, and you will see this section over here. So watch this, all right? If I were to go and now click on something else over there, and I click on this side, because we are still in the Power Apps, we are even in the studio, it has got such that tight connection, specifically with this Power BI integration, that over here, I'm actually clicking on the report and I'm changing things. And in the Canvas app, in the studio, things are also getting edited. It's pretty neat how this works. Thought I'd let me show you that, all right? So then come back in, go get my Power Apps, and I should go and get my tab back in here. And let's at least continue doing a little bit more designing phase, all right? So far, I kind of like everything I'm seeing over here. Don't want to mess too many things up. What I do want to do is actually, I want to go and expand this photo piece over there. Instead of seeing the text that is coming in, I want to get a little bit more image. So what I'll do is, I'll go and select this thing off, and I like everything over here. What I do is I'll actually make these ones a little bit more smaller. So the memory one, I can make that a little bit more smaller. I can actually go and grab all of these important ones. That's fine. I'll just make sure that the screen size is a little bit more bigger. Storage is a little bit more bigger. You know, just make sure I can fill some of this up. This one, I want to expand that all the way, make it a little bit more bigger. And then I'm going to click on advanced. I want to unlock it. In the unlock, I'm going to click that specific data card, and I'll go and make it invisible. However, inside it, I want to click on insert, go to media, click on image, and now I'll just go and fill this up all the way, right? So make sure I can get that. And for the image, in the image for property, I'll type in this item dot, and I believe it was called as photo. And the moment I click on it, it will now take the URL and it populates it this way. So I like what I'm seeing. I'll keep this as is. Now, what I want to do is add a little bit more design aesthetics, because when people are seeing this form coming in, I only want them to be able to view it. But when we click on a button or an icon, it should allow them to edit as well. So you kind of guessed it. What I'm going to do is in the form directly over here, outside the form, I'm going to go and now put in my icon. And in the icon, I'll grab the pencil one. I'm just making sure that it's not inside the form. So I actually did go and grab it. So I'll do a Control-C. I'll go outside in the container and I'll do a paste. So now it's out here. So the one that is in the form, I can go and delete it. So this one, I can go and keep it outside. I'll go and make it a little bit more small. We can do a quick test just to make sure that, yep, when I hover over it, I am in fact hovering over the pencil, and it's not a little bit in the background, right? So we can make that a little bit smaller. Pencil, we got to make that as white. And now we've got the pencil. Now, in the app on start, specifically for the app on start, right over here on the app on start, I want to go and set a variable. That set variable is going to be the var height equals false, right? I'm just going to call that. You can come up with whatever functionality that you want. So when I click on the app on start and I do a run on start, now I do have a variable called var height, and it is set to false. So what I'm going to do now for my form, specifically for the form and it's visible, here's how I'm going to, actually the form's visible is correct. In the form's edit mode, that is what I'm going to go and change. So I click on the form, and in the default mode, right over here on the form, on the default mode, I'm going to click on that, and this is what the formula is there by default. What I'm going to do is put in an if function. So I'm going to put if, and I'll go and say that if the var height value equals to false, then go ahead and give me not the edit, but give me the view right there. Click on comma. I'll click on var height equals to true, and see it didn't like that because the error, the correct formula wasn't there. Equals to true. I'm going to go with the form mode equals edit and go and click on that one. And as you guessed it, the pencil is what's going to do all the work for that, because I need something to actually change the variable. So on the pencil, specifically when I select the pencil in its on select, this is the formula that I'll have for the pencils on select. And that's also going to be an if function, but a little bit different if function. So right here, this is what it's going to be. I'm going to say var height. If the var height equals false, Well, go ahead and set that value to true, comma true. All right. And what I'll do is I'll actually go and copy that and comma shift, and I'll go and paste it to now if the var height equals true, well, go ahead and set that to false. That's basically all that I'm doing over here. All right. And we've already assigned that value directly to our form in the default mode. So we should be able to do this. So I'm going to go click on app. I'm going to do an app run on start. And as you can see, the moment I did that, the form changed a little bit. But if I now go and do that, the form goes into edit mode. If I click on this again, it goes back in here. So I need to change that pencil icon a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm on the pencil. I've selected that. I'm going to click on icon. And on the icon, guess what? I'm going to add another if function over here. So here's the if function right there. I'll go ahead and close the if function. This is just my style, by the way, how I actually do it. I open up a bracket, close the bracket, just kind of getting myself familiar with this, all right? So I'm going to say if the var height equals false, if it is false, go ahead and show me the edit icon, which is the pencil icon, all right? I'm going to copy this, Control C, comma, Shift, Enter. And if the var height equals true, if it is true, then change the icon to the cancel function. All right, this is what I want the functionality here. Now you will see that the icon actually reflects that change. So watch, if we go and click on it, now it went ahead and put the form into edit view. But if it's in the edit view, I can now go and cancel it over here. So now we actually see the form functioning. One last thing I want to do is inside the container, I'm going to go ahead and add a submit button. I'll click on the button. I'll just move it a little bit to the bottom over here for now. I'm still inside the container, so that's good. And I'll call this as submit. The submit, all that the submit is going to do on select, it is actually going to do two things. One is it will go ahead and have the submit form function. There's only one function there. And then I'll go and actually do the set. I'm going to do var hide, comma, go and set that as false. So we can do that. And I'm going to make sure that the value is actually, the button only shows up when the var is hide value is false. So for that, I'll actually go to the button, still selected. I'm going to go on the visible. And over here, I'll type in the var hide, but make sure that it is by default that way. So check this out. When I come in now and I click on this, if I click on edit, the button shows up. If I click on cancel, it goes and hides. If I click on that and if I submit the button, it will also submit it and then it will hide. So I am liking everything that I'm seeing over here. I'm going to click on, well, actually the other thing I want to do is I just always, just good habit is inside the container, I'm going to go ahead and add a label. Always to the bottom right, add a little label, and I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this as my version 1.0, change that to a value of view, go ahead and make it nice and white right over here and click on save. Save, and I go and click on my publish. Right over here, right? So I'll publish. Now, when I go to my Power BI, in fact, it was going to go and take a refresh it, but I've noticed this one thing. It sometimes takes 3 times for me to refresh it. So watch this. I'll click on save, and in my save, I can now come in and I can actually go outside my report, like in the Power BI, completely out in my workspace. This is the report, so I'll click on the report, and sometimes it'll go and load automatically, all right? But otherwise, it will take a little bit of a while. So it takes actually, my magic number is 3 refreshes. After I do the refresh the 3rd time, more than likely I actually get it immediately that way. So it's loading. This looks promising. It is loading, and here you go. What I don't quite like is the design piece over here. So let me go and click on edit. In the edit, what I don't like is these gray bars up and down in the header and the footer. So I'm going to make it move a little bit. I got to highlight it properly. Come on. There you go. It's moving little by little. Right there. And yeah, that's enough. So I'll go and click on save. But now let's go and actually do this test. So right over here, I've selected the HP, and by default, I've got this HP Pavilion. First of all, let's see how is the filtering all working. The filtering is working great. Real time in the edit form directly. Now I don't have a gallery and select the gallery and then go to the edit form. I don't have that. Directly I am seeing the edit form, all right? It's looking pretty nice. But what I can do is now I can click on this edit button and I can go and say change the values. In the values I can say 1200. Because it does that, click on submit and the data gets saved. Just to prove, if I went outside to another device, came back to the original one, it now shows me the edited data. So I'm able to do real-time editing in Power BI using the Power Apps Canvas app, because I made sure that the data source has got direct query and that it works really well over here. The two final pieces I want to talk about is the permissions and the table structure. So when you are going to go ahead and share this Power BI report with people, make sure that you also share the same app with the same amount of people. So your Canvas app also has to be shared. In fact, every time you open up the Canvas app, it'll give you this little message that you do need to save this, share this app with the right amount of people who are also seeing the report. Otherwise, they will get this error message over here, right? The permissions are handled at the Canvas app level. That's number one. Number two is that anytime you call specifically a SQL table in Power Apps for editing functionality, that SQL table absolutely needs to have a primary ID column. Let me show you what that means. So right over here, this was the devices table. I select that. I actually go and expand the columns. In my columns, you see how that ID column has a key in front of it? That means that that is your primary key column, the ID column. You absolutely need to have that, otherwise you won't have the edit functionality in Power Apps. It is by design, there's something you can do about it. What you would be able to do is you can connect that devices table into an edit form, but it will always show it as a view. You will not be able to do an edit form. The only time the edit form functionality works is you've got to have that key. It's a very important piece that you need to be aware of. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and now you saved a step. You don't need to add a gallery and then go to the edit form. You directly get into the edit form, and I've shared some tips on how you can actually go and get the form design that you want and make sure that SQL table has that primary key. So hopefully this video is helpful, and as always, keep using Power Apps and Power BI. Hey everyone, hopefully you found this video useful, and if you did, can you help me help you? Can you subscribe to this YouTube channel? Because remember, I provide fresh content on a weekly basis, and it's 100% free. So if you have subscribed, thank you so much, and pass the word. But if you haven't, subscribe, click on the bell notification, and let the learning begin.